everyone, I am the Basement Dweeb, you can call me Nova, and today we'll be talking about Fruits Basket, the final episode 8, I'm disappointed in you. Real quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, to hit the subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment down below, share it around on Twitter, tag me at the Basement Dweeb, and without further ado, let's get right into it. So this episode is basically KYO hating on himself, the episode. Like, this episode is, everything in this episode, everything that happens with KYO serves for KYO to use to illustrate why he's a terrible person, why he hates himself, and why he doesn't deserve to be forgiven. So, there's not a ton I'm going to say. I'm not really going to go into detail. Obviously, I recommend watching the episode. I recommend watching the episode before watching any of my videos. But, there's the only wholesome bit we get. Everything in this episode is angst and self-hate and pain, except for like 5 minutes of young KYO and Kyoko flashbacks, which are very cute and kind of explain how KYO met Kyoko and some of the interactions they had, and how Kyoko thought he was adorable as he was borderline cursing her out. Like, when he first met her, she was like, oh, you know, she was just talking to him like she'd talk to anybody, you know, it's Kyoko, and he's like, shut up, I'll kill you, like, and she's like, oh, you're such a brat, you're so cute, and he's like, hey, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, oh, you're so stinking adorable, and I'm just like, only Kyoko would do that. It's so funny. But those are the only wholesome bits we get, literally the entire episode. All the rest is just pain and angst and suffering. So, where do we even start? I guess we'll start at the beginning. So the beginning, I will say, I do like the transition into the OP, because normally, you know, the OP starts off the episode. Sorry. In most cases, the OP will just start the episode, and then it'll kind of go from there. In this episode, we start right where the last episode left off, and then we move into, and then, you know, we show KYO's head turning, we hear some rain sounds, and then it just transitions very smoothly into the OP, and I really liked it, you know, it was very stylistic, and I really liked it, just that, and then we go into, KYO, Toru tried to confess to KYO kind of upending that, being like, hey, do you love me, and telling her why she shouldn't love him, because, you know, what about her mom, and then, he leaves, and Toru follows him like, hey, what's going on? And then he kind of just goes on this 20-minute rant, basically explaining why he's a terrible person. You know, he was there when he met Kyoko. He was explaining to her, you know, I met Kyoko when I was young. I, you know, got mad at her because of the whole stuff that happened, you know, when Yuki found Toru and brought her home, because he had made a man's promise with Kyoko that he made a man's promise with Kyoko that he was going to find Toru and bring her home, and then Yuki brought her home instead, and he was angry about it, and he ran away, and then all this other stuff, and then he got really mad and didn't see Kyoko again until he was older, and he was there the day Kyoko got hit by a car, and he saw Kyoko, and he was like debating whether to say anything, and then he sees a car coming for them, and Kyoko didn't see it, and so she just kind of walks forward. And KYO's like, what do I do? I need to help her. I need to pull her back. I need to save her. And then he's like, but I'll transform. And then he just gets taken by this fear. What if I transform? What if people see me for the monster I am? What if Kyoko hates me? And so he just doesn't do anything, and she gets hit by the car. And he says, you know, if I had done something, she would be alive. If I had only pulled her back, she wouldn't have gone flying, she wouldn't have experienced all that pain. And I'm just like, you're right, you're not wrong, but you are at the same, you're not wrong in the fact that she would probably still be alive. Probably. But it's not, I just don't feel like it's his fault. You know? Like, it is technically kind of like the bystander effect, where he's like, you know, not doing anything, but he didn't do it because he was afraid. I personally don't think it's his fault. You could make the case that it is his fault, or that, you know, it's negligence it's not his fault. It's negligence if it's anything, but it's still one of those things where it's like, but you understand why he didn't do anything. You know, he's been told all his life that he is a monster, that he does not deserve love or affection or anything, and he felt that it was all his fault. And it wasn't entirely his fault. Fear is powerful. Fear is all-consuming. When you are afraid of something, if you are really afraid of it, that fear consumes you. And something else that I felt when I was watching is something, it's a saying I really like, especially like with mostly with movie characters, but it's something that I've always found interesting. Only survivors have the luxury of guilt. And I just feel like that applies so thoroughly to Kyo, because he survived where other people in his life didn't, his mom and Kyoko. Obviously, we all know his mother's death, not his fault. He was 6 and it was a suicide. Like, that's cut and dried. It is not his fault in any way, shape, or form. But still, it's just one of those things where he's had two women in his life that were important to him taken away. And he specifically says during the flashbacks with him when he was young that Kyoko was like a ray of light because of the fact that everyone except Kazuma hated him. So and then when Kyoko died, he descended into darkness and he stayed trapped there because he felt so guilty over what he'd done. And we find out that the reason Kazuma took him into the mountains was because he was trying to make Kyo want to live again. And that implies that Kyo was borderline suicidal. And I was just like, or actually suicidal. I'm just like, okay, thank you for saving our boy Kazuma, but also Kyo, don't do that. It bothered me. I'm just like, no, Kyo no. But eventually Kyo finds a reason. He says, you know what? Hating Yuki, that is my reason to live now. And I'm just like, okay. At least you have a reason, but maybe find a better one. Maybe find a better reason to live than just hating Yuki for no reason. Than just hating Yuki because he's the rat. I don't know. But, you know, he's like, he kind of went on the same rant that Toru went on, where he was like, I made Yuki the bad guy in my head, and because of that, it wasn't logical, it didn't need to be, I just needed someone to blame. And I'm like, yeah, Toru did the same thing when she was young with her dad, and I'm just like, you guys have parallels, you guys have shared trauma, kind of, with stuff like that, kind of, like, in the way you blame someone. It's interesting. But yeah, so Toru, and then Kyo kind of goes on this rant. He finishes it, and then he says, he goes on all this stuff, and he says, you know, your mom said, I won't forgive you. Said that she wouldn't forgive me, you know. As she was laying there, she saw me and said, I won't forgive you. At least that's what it sounded like. I wouldn't, it's like, can you forgive me? The guy who said nothing, the guy who ran away, the guy who lied to you, basically. Can, you know, like, I don't think I could ever forgive myself. I don't want you to forgive me, etc., etc., etc. You know, just hating on himself continuously for a good few more minutes. And then Toru says, I won't. Is that what you want me to say? You know, are those my only options? I will forgive you or I won't. I don't think, that doesn't sound like my mom, you know. I don't think she would ever say that. But if that's true and you didn't mishear, then I guess I know my choice. I have to go against my mom because I love you and nothing you say will ever change that. And I'm just like, my girl Toru, just being out here, being a good girl, just, you know, making sure that he knows that she loves him and stuff. And while we're talking, Yuki's kind of walking down the stairs, and because he heard, I guess he woke up, saw the commotion outside, saw Toru and Kyo standing in the rain. He's like, what are they doing? And he kind of is walking downstairs, and then as Toru says, you know, I love you and nothing you say will ever change that, Kyo's like, I'm disappointed in you. And then it flashes back to the episode from 2 weeks ago where he said you won't disappoint me, as he was hugging her around the sheet. And then he turns and runs away, and then Yuki's like, yeah, wait. And then, you know, he kind of goes outside and tells Toru, hey, maybe go inside, dry off, I'll be back. And then he's like, Kyo, just kind of chases after Kyo, being like, yeah, no, we're not doing that, you're coming back, I will drag you if I have to. We're going to talk about feelings. We're going to get this sorted. We are not going to leave Toru hanging like that. That is not okay. And all this stuff. And then, while this is going on, Kyo's kind of monologuing over, you know, I said everything I wanted to say, you know, airing all my sins, and I completely trampled over your feelings. How pathetic is that? And, as he's monologuing, you see Akito running up the hill towards Shigure's house, and then you see her kind of climbing. You see someone seeing Toru through kind of like a wooden trellis kind of thing, and then you see Akito climbing up the dirt, and then you see her kind of walk into the courtyard, still holding the knife, mind you, and yeah, funny enough, you see Toru, right? You see her kind of look across the yard, and then they're just kind of looking at each other, and it kind of pans out, and then the ED plays, and I was just like, okay, I'm not okay. What the hell? It's bad. It's like, Kyo, stop hating yourself. I know it doesn't work that way, but stop hating yourself, please. Anyway, and I know I've read the manga, so I know, I don't really remember details about it because I did read it a couple of years ago, but I remember the main points of what happens, and I know what happens next week, and it's gonna hurt a lot, but at the same time, I'm excited for it. But it's like, but the pain. Fruits Basket, why? Why does Fruits Basket hurt us like this, and why do we keep coming back for more? Anyway, that's going to be the end of the video. Like, comment, and subscribe. I will be linking my Patreon and my Twitter down below. Share the video around on the internet. Anyone who tags it, I will shout them out. Still don't have a proper outro. Leave a comment down below. See you next one. Bye! Really quick, something I forgot to add in the video. I do think Kyo has a little bit more trauma in association with Kyoko's death because, obviously I think Toru has more grief, but I think Kyo has more trauma. Based on the simple fact that he was there. He saw her dead body. He saw her, he saw her die. He was there. He heard her talking. He repressed the memory. So it's one of those things where it's just like, you know what? I think he's a little bit more trauma. I was gonna say that and I completely spaced. But yeah, Kyo has more trauma in Natsume Michiko's death than Toru. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, bye.